Salut coders, this is Bisky. This is another YouTube tutorial where we are doing our practical of building REST service. Let's get started. From the previous videos, I showed you the theory, how to create a user controller. So in this video, I'll show you how to create a user controller and create a user module. So from the previous project that we created on our second video, we are continuing from that project. So click source, main, Java, and our package is com.code.with-basic. So here, create a new package, name it module. Let's create a class called user. Then let's add fields here. A user is a private string ID. This is our unique ID. Then username, first name, last name, age, and the age is an integer. Private list of string, import the list. These are our rows. So we have to create getters and setters. So right click in your class, generate getters and setters. But for me, this is I don't like this. This is dirty. This is dirty. Let me show you the other way. When we created this project, we added a Lombok dependency. So the purpose of that dependency is this I'm showing you right now. So you annotate this class with getter and also annotate with setter. So it is the same like creating getters and setters. So now this is now smart and easy to read. So after doing this, let's create our user controller. Let me copy this, create a new package again, which is controller. Then a new Java class, user controller. So all our requests to go through this user controller or users. So as we spoke on the previous video, we add an annotation address controller and add this annotation at requests mapping, and here put add users. So all our requests to start with users. I will show you using Postman. Then we are now creating our methods. our first method is to get a user. So I told you on the previous tutorial, when you want to get a user or you want to get something, you use a get mapping. So let's do that. Add get mapping. All these annotations are coming from the web dependencies. So public response entity. We talked about this response entity, whereby our response we have a header, a body, and a status code. So we want to return a user. Let's import our user. So get user by what? By ID. So if you want to get user by ID, we know that here we are supposed to pass a string. Our ID is a string, but for this UID to be recognized via a REST controller, we have to add a path variable, and now we are having this error telling you ID is never used and cannot resolve ID in the request mapping. So here in our request mapping, get mapping, we are going to do this. You can see. So we are now able to pass /users /ID, and the ID will be any like 1 or 2 or 3. So for now, let's put return now. So here you want to return a user. So how do we return a user? We return it with our response entity. So here you can just say response entity dot OK, and for body, for now let's put now. Let me create a sample user, private, a simple user just for testing object, get demo user. I'm doing this because for now we are not persisting our data from database. Later on our later videos we shall create persisting this data and retrieving it from the database. But this just for testing. Let's create this user. So here we want to return a user. So the user, let's create a new user. Goes to new user dot set ID 1, set first name please, set last name, set age. This is an integer. Set rows, arrays dot is list. Our first row will be developer maintainer and admin. Then we'll return this user. Then from here you just add this, so it will return an OK. An OK is a response body. You can see OK is a status OK, which is at 200. So when creating, as I told you, you created, you return 201. These are the list of responses, and I told you about 400, which is a bad request. The request that you are posting is bad, and 401 unauthorized, 403 you are forbidden to access that endpoint, 404 not find, the resource does not exist. And these are the list of response code that you can use. 500 internal server, 503 service unavailable. So for now we can do this, and so this is the way, this is our gate. But I don't like this way of creating this like this, so let me show you the Lombok way, in the smart way. So here you go to your user class and we add an annotation at builder, then you come back here. So here is now a builder, so we can do this user dot builder dot id will be 1, like what we did before. I'm just copying that this one is the smartest way. Dot first name, just copy the first name. Here this is the last name. Last name will be 30, and we check our rows. After that you just say dot build. That's all. Then you can remove this code. As you can see, it's now clean. You are no longer a beginner now. This is a smart code, easy to read. So this endpoint, the get mapping, we want to get this object, so we are returning this response, and it will be a format of our format of JSON. So it will produce a JSON. So here you can just specify that it produces, and then you can say this produces. We can see the produces. This produces an array. Then it's a media type dot JSON application JSON value. So our response will be a JSON. If it's XML, we just say application XML value. So that's all from here. So let's test this endpoint. I think this is if that is currently running on this. So this one of 990. So this port is being used. Don't be surprised when you see this. It means the port is already in use with another service. So for now, let me go into application YAML and update this to 91, and we can run it on port 8991. Yeah. So users ID, then you can pass anything for now and you return our user. Let's test this with customer. So here, so the end you type localhost because it's running on our local computer. // 8991. The endpoint that we want to access its users. As you can see, we want to access users since it's a users controller. If it's another controller, you can just differentiate them here. So everything that you access here in this class, all of them, they're in users path. So that's why our controller is what? A user, is a user's path. And our ID, this is our ID, this is the path variable. If you this / and an ID in those parameters, it means it's an we are accessing this is a path variable. All path variable has these curly braces, so don't be surprised if you see this one. So if it's a string, it automatically convert to a string. If it's a long, it will automatically change it to a long. It depends, but for me, all my IDs will be strings. So now let's test the endpoint. Let's send. The problem that 405 method not allowed, because here I selected a delete, of which on our service we have what? We have a get mapping. So far we don't have a delete mapping. So we didn't reach our what? Our endpoint, a get mapping. So let's update. It's another response code 405. So let's change it to get and send a request. You can see this is our response code and it is a JSON. You can see here JSON and our response code is 200 and it took 38 milliseconds to get a response, and this is the size 283 bytes. So our get mapping is working correctly. So let me show you how to create. It's easy. Now let's copy as it is, and this is going to be a delete. So delete user by ID. Let's change the method name. Delete user by ID. So if you try to run this thing, it won't work because it's now we have the same get mapping with the same path variable. So we are supposed to have a unique endpoint for each request handler. So here let me change it to delete mapping. Now delete mapping. Then for a delete, we don't want to return anything. So the other way you can do that is response entity dot response entity status. We just say okay. HTTP status dot okay dot build without anybody. So we will not get anything. It will return an empty response body. Let's test this. So let's go to our postman. In our postman, you can see this is the get, and if you hit a get, but remember last time when you did a delete, what happened? It returned 405, but now we have the endpoint. Let's see what happened. You see now because we added a delete, we are now getting a response 200. Okay, no, we are no longer seeing that error 405 because we implemented that method. So let me show you how to create a resource. Let's create a new resource. So creating a resource, I told you we use a post mapping, then public response entity. We want to return a user, create a user. This is the endpoint to create a user, and we use it request body. Then our object will be user. This is the JSON or the JSON object that we are going to send. So for now, we are going to return the object that we passed here. It created, I told you when you are creating a resource, you can return a 201. Usually, most developers return a 200, but for me, I want to do things the right way. 201. So body will return the same user that we passed here, and it will return a response code what 201. Means we created something, so it means we saved something on our DB. So let me run this. So let's go to our postman. We are now use our postman for our testing, all of our testing. So here, copy this endpoint, create here, paste this, change here to post. So right now our post does not have, our post mapping does not have this path variable. So we can remove this one and go to body, then select row and change here to JSON. So I want to copy an existing JSON that we have. Okay, forget. Let me copy get. So in creating, we want to create. So for this one is for you can remove the ID when creating. So we don't have an ID. Username. Let's say test. First name. Test again. Last name. User age 24, roles developer admin, yeah, and also just say if this role employee does not have this one, if this user is not a maintainer, yeah. Then after doing this, you just click post. You can see the same request that we send, we get the response, we will get the same response. So as you can see, the status code is 201. So the endpoint has reached our endpoint. The request has reached our endpoint, and we get 201 as a response code. And this is our body, and this is the list of headers. Since I told you the response entity has headers, body, and response code. So that's all for posting for now. And the post mapping and the put mapping, they are just like the same, but when you say it put mapping, we are updating. So this is the basic CRUD: create, read, update, and delete. So here we can say put mapping. So here we are now updating user, update user. So here we want our path variable, which is in. So what you do, we pass an ID on our endpoint. Then what you do is to first fetch the record. Once you get the record, we then update it with the details that we pass here. So how, like what you did on get mapping, we have to come here, just copy as it is, right, and paste here. This is an ID. So here you can, if you type user ID here, it will say user ID variable, user ID, like cannot resolve user ID in request mapping. So you can, what you can also do here is on path variable, you can just say ID. So this ID will match it with this one. But if you don't want to do this, the path variables and on put mapping and this must match. So the error is gone. This is matching with this. So this is the put mapping. For the put mapping, you are updating the record that already exists. So the logic here is to first find the record by ID. So let me do this. If it is exists, we then update the record. Here we can do also another validation just to check if user name username exists. When an exception that the user already user. Yeah, just the same. First find the record by ID if it exists, then delete the record. This is the delete mapping. Here we are now finding the user by ID. So for put mapping, last example for put mapping is just the same. Let's run this application again, and here our method type, we just change here to what, to put mapping. So for put, I told you for a path variable you must pass an ID. Let's try to do it without this one and see. You see, method not allowed 405. So our put mapping here is expecting what, an ID, what, an ID that is already exists. Then we do this and then it will return our object. So this is the JSON object. and this is the JSON body. So we are sending this JSON body to our request to our endpoint, the put mapping, and this object will be converted to a user class with the annotation it requests body. It does implementation to convert it to a class. Then we are now able to consume to use it as to consume that as JSON and able to use that class. And then the response entity will then convert it as a response as JSON response. So guys, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching. Let's meet on the next video. Salut coders. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell to be notified whenever we upload a new video. Happy coders.